Hello, welcome back to the Best Ball Boardroom. We had a week-long hiatus. I was traveling around at the FSGA last week. Got to be in a panel with Rich Rebar, Chris Allen, a lot of great people there as well. Having some fun. I have not been doing nearly enough drafts. It's been a week not doing these streams, so we are back, and I'm excited. And we're doing a special show today. So we're mixing it up. No guests today. We're doing questions. This is for the people, for the commenters, for the people in chat, for the people on Twitter. So I will obviously be drafting a BBM, but also going to take as many as questions as possible. So we've got some queued up already from the Twitter. But if you have any, put them in chat. Let's see who is here today. Happy Monday. Where are we? June 19th. Okay. Getting close to that kind of hot spot in July where the drafts are supposed to be fire. Let's see. Looking at the lobby right now. Dalmatian 2 was launched over the weekend. I know Puppy filled late last week, maybe Friday. But yeah, we'll jump into BBM here. But taking any of those questions, I will. Let's go. Sup. How's it going, Jesse? Let's go. Putting it on. We'll get this lobby going. Feel free. Hop on in. Let's get a draft going. And in the meantime, I'll start off with this special Q&A day by chatting through some of these questions that came in earlier on Twitter. And yeah, let's hear it. This will be fun. Just going to keep it kind of casual, relaxed, and see what discussion comes up. But starting off, we got John Ditcher. So favorite draft position this year and then least favorite. Assuming he's talking specifically about like from that 1 to 12. I like 1. I'm always going to like 1. I just think as you go further into drafts, the gap between each position from a confidence, from an upside standpoint continues to change. So like Justin Jefferson, I think even has like a substantial edge over Jamar Chase. So like I'm usually biased towards 1. I think with number 1 as well, you can kind of have a better chance of guaranteeing that you're going to get your stacks. Even with pick like 2 or 3, you still take a risk hoping that your QB, that wide receiver that near the top of the board is not going to get sniped from you. With that pick 1, you're able to know with confidence, hey, if I draft these 2 players together, I can guarantee myself that stack. So I like that as well. If we're looking a little more middle in the draft, I think top 6, top 7, I'm really content with. I like all those 7 all the way through Eckler at that 7 spot for the first round. I think it then starts dropping a bit where there's really not that much of a difference between like pick who you're taking pick 8 and who you're taking picks like 13, 14, 15. So that's where I would go with like my least favorite would probably be in that 8, 9 range. Cause you take a tier drop after that first round. And then in the third round, when we're starting to look, that's when a lot of those running backs I like are really gone. And there's another tier drop off. I feel, I mean, we're looking right here after kind of that Andrews, that Breece Hall, when you're taking a look at the board, if you have that 8, 9, you're looking at 32, 33, 34. That's when I do feel there is a bit of a drop-off. So I'd say 8, 9 are probably my least favorite this year. Pick 1. What about, people in chat? Okay, I see some names in here as well. Welcome. We're taking pick 7 right now. So maybe I just had a little confirmation bias on why I picked that. But we got 4 straight wide receivers starting off. CMC going to 3. As I mentioned, I'm grabbing Eckler here. And we'll see if the wide receiver avalanche doesn't screw me over too much. But with that 7, we can get 31 here where maybe I get one of those second running backs to fall. Maybe it's Mark Andrews, can kind of take Lamar, bit of a reach, but I'm okay with it. Otherwise, you've got all those wide receivers. So I think highly likely we'll be taking a wide receiver at the 18 spot because I really don't want to leave ourselves with stuck in a bit of a bind where you end up getting 3 straight running backs if that running back falls here. And because we're unlikely to get a wide receiver we love at 31, I'm probably going to be taking that wide receiver at 18 here. We'll see how this plays out. I haven't actually had too many of the 7 spot this year. So it'll be an interesting one. What's going on? Let's see. We got Jeremy in pick 2. We got Mitch in the 11 spot. We got Brian in the 5 spot. Love it. I love it. I think I saw familiar as well. Let's go back. So Tampa Wheels in the 4, right down the road from me. A few different badges. 5 red badges there, 2 black badges at the end. Good to see everyone. What's up? Yeah, get some questions going. I got some more from Twitter that I'll keep throwing in as we keep drafting, and then let's go to that next one. Next one from PLO2PL. If you're going with a 2 QB build, who is the last QB by ADP you feel okay with being your QB1? All right. Where are we? We still got a little time. Let's take a look at those QBs. I've done a decent amount of like Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, where I'd be taking them around that like 96, 97 spot back to back, where I don't love the other wide receivers. Maybe I already grabbed like 2 strong running backs and the 2-3 spot there. But I think like that's a pretty decent one. After I pick, I'll take a little more time into thinking if I'd stretch it even a little more. This is what we're talking about. Maybe I shouldn't have been talking, but Olave and Waddle gone. Gosh, it is a reach to go T. Higgins here and Devonta. I think we've got to go with the running back as well. And we're just going to go starting with 2 strong running backs, and we'll see where this draft takes us. It's a little risky with that Eckler going that 7th overall with the wide receivers falling. Let's see what Waddle and Olave's ADP actually are. I know Waddle 16, Olave 19. So yeah, Waddle going right on cue at 16. Olave kind of a slight reach to go wide receiver with Josh here. All right, we'll see how this plays out. I'm really going to go out of my way to try to not draft another running back here. Even if Breece Hall were to fall to me, I'm not going to pick that. If one of these 3 falls, it's a bit more difficult. I do like Ramondre, but I know ETR ranks were a little low on him because there's a lot of kind of signals that show that he's just not going to be the workhorse, and they may try to use a little more pass catching with some of the other guys. So I get the risk there. I do think he has tremendous upside, but I'm probably not going to be grabbing a Ramondre or a Breece because of my back-to-back RB starts here. To finish that off, okay, so who is the last QB by ADP you feel okay with being your QB1? So by that argument, it was Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones's back-to-back. I'm trying to think like I think I'm okay with grabbing 2 guys in this range. Like, would I go Geno and Rodgers and call it a day? I think I probably would if I'm heavily stacked with those. Specifically Rodgers, like you're counting, if you're drafting Rodgers here and you're only going 2 QBs and you've got a decent amount of Rodgers to get Garrett Wilson, you probably have Lazard or one of those other pass catchers. Like you're really counting on a strong season, so it's not as much of a risk. Like it feels like, okay, that's pick 120, but in reality, you're making a bet that he's going to exceed that expectation. And now at that point, if he is more like a 9th rounder, is it actually that bad? I don't know. Maybe not. That's why I like it all. Breece Hall comes back to me. You guys are just taunting me, just teasing me. I do not feel that we can grab a wide receiver here. We're going to grab Mark Andrews. We are tying our hands behind our back with no wide receivers in the first 3 rounds. It always feels risky. The worst is guys are probably going to give me Lamar in the 4th and make me take that and go no wide receivers in the first 4. I do not feel good about how we're starting this. It's going to be an interesting one. Oh. All right. So yeah, I think I answered that one. I think 2 QBs in that 10th round area. If you're going back to back, it's okay to have that one of those as your QB1. On DraftKings, very different. I'm much more okay with waiting later, and also I'm far more likely to go with 3 QBs. All right, let's go another one from Twitter. Then I see there's lots of comments. So I'll go back to chat in a few. Keegan Thompson, let's go back. Let's get some board going. All right, Keegan Thompson asking 2-part question. Around what round do you start thinking of week 17 correlation options? And what are your favorite week 17 matchups to target that are cheap? So first one, honestly, probably I'd say the 2nd round. Like I'm not really trying to lock that in with the first. I'm pretty much just going best player available. But if I have CeeDee Lamb, I'm going to more likely go with that. I'm on Ross St. Brown for the stack there. If I grabbed, let's see, what's another popular one that I'm doing? Vegas, Indy, Jets, Buffalo, Chargers, San Francisco. I think Cooper Kupp and Barkley I've gotten a few times where you're getting the LAR New York Giants. Haven't really tried the Garrett Wilson, Nick Chubb, but I could see that. Like I could see myself doing that one more in August if we know for sure that these two aren't going to be like highly paired with the way that they're being drafted and where their ADP is. But yeah, the short answer of it is as soon as I get one player on my team, I'm starting to think about it. As we said with the pyramid, and we talked about in the ETR podcast series, it is the top of the pyramid. There are so many other things that I want to focus on too, but I'm still always kind of thinking about those major stacks and mini stacks as well. Okay. Thinking now, we've got Kirk, we got Hopkins, we got Williams, we got McLaurin, all decent players at the top here. If we're thinking from some stack standpoints, like this is right now. So we don't have any Rams. Let's see Denver. We could go Mike Williams. Where's let's see. I'm going to queue up Mike Williams here. Kind of the best ADP. Christian Watson's a little better, but I'm not going to reach for that one. Let's go Mike Williams. Maybe we get ourselves a bit of a Chargers thing going on here. I like Mike Williams, so I'm happy with this. We'll grab this and go from there. We are likely going to be going heavy wide receiver. What, 50, 55, 66, 79. I know I'm going to get at least 4 good wide receivers, so through this area. If Justin Herbert falls to 55 and Justin Herbert falls to us, which is ADP is 54, I'm still going to pass on it. It's just too much already invested in the non-wide receiver position that the stack for Eckler and Williams is not worth as much for me making sure that I'm not just going to get completely destroyed with wide receivers. If Justin Herbert was to fall to me at 66, I'm probably strongly, that'd be tough. I'd be strongly considering it. It's hard to pass up a round of ADP value, see what was available at the wide receiver position, but I'm definitely not going to be taking him at 55 if he's still there. Okay. And then part 2. What are your favorite Week 17 matchups to target that are cheap? All right, I am going to cheat on this one. I'm going to pass because Jack Miller from ETR has been doing some great work. I don't actually know if he published the article yet. I know he's working on it and finalizing it over the weekend, but he's got a great article that's going to be coming that is basically evaluating, ranking Week 17 matchups. We've been doing some talk around the weather aspects, around the actual, now that we have the actual game totals, maybe some wide range of outcomes of what could happen there as well. So I'm not going to throw anything because I don't want to overstep there. Jack did some great work with that, so I'm gonna push that as well. Okay. As we come back around, Herbert is going to fall to us. We are not going to fall for that trap as wide receiver running backs keep falling. You guys are treating this like this is a ship chasing show with all these wide receivers. Just avalanche. We'll see what comes back to us. We are definitely going to be grabbing a wide receiver here. Let's grab Marquise Brown. Yeah, it's a bit of a reach, but we need these. Seattle, Pitt, Mike Evans, New Orleans. Nothing really from a stack correlation aspect. I'm just going to grab best wide receiver available here at Marquise Brown. All right, going to go through some chat questions there. Seen a lot of familiar faces. Neil, any area of best ball you'd most like to see more research into? Good question. At the very top of my head, I don't have an immediate answer because a lot of going into this season, my outstanding questions, I kind of just threw up on a sheet for Leone, and he was able to cover a ton of those with the manifesto. I think the easy answer here, kind of top of mind, is how we can expand if we can use projections, which would then lead to simulations to expand our data set. That's where I think there's greater opportunity because we are limited by just the 3 seasons of data we have. I guess easy answer is I'd love to see more research on the DraftKings side of things because they don't make that data available, so we don't have any much. But so because we're limited to those 3 seasons, what Leone did with the manifesto was great, where rather than just using Week 17 and how players kind of did there, he kind of made the assumption that, hey, let's consider these other weeks could have also theoretically been championships weeks to know how stacks actually their success rate, game stacking, and all that. That gives us a larger data set rather than just the week 17 aspect. What I'm getting to is I think there's a major opportunity for we can actually simulate outcomes of what seasons could look like based on our projections. No, it's not real data, but it at least allows you to then do a bit more scenario analysis around what could happen and gives us that larger sample size from a seasonal aspect. So I think how do we get into more theoretical aspects that aren't just locking us into the data that we have? The data that we have is fantastic, but I think that's where I'd say there's the area of opportunity for best ball. Not an easy answer for you, Neil, even though I know how much you love going into data, but I basically just said to make up data. So sorry. All right. We're going back. Justin Herbert goes with the Keenan Allen stack here in the 12 slot, which makes complete sense. Thank you for not making us have to make a decision on if we were going to grab a wide receiver there as well. No surprise, wide receivers, we're still going to be going there. If we were looking at any kind of correlation aspects, Minnesota, Green Bay, Tennessee, Houston, Tampa, New Orleans, go Buff, New England, no week 17 correlation. Going to keep just going kind of best player available here. I do like Addison actually a little more than Treylon Burks with the risk of Hopkins signing. In Tennessee, Addison, I think also I put out a Twitter thread like a week or so ago about Gabe Davis having the highest contingency value from where he's being drafted to where he would be if you knew there was an injury to the number one. Addison could be close, probably top 5. I don't know if I could put him number 2. There's just too much kind of range of outcome risk as a rookie. But I think he has at least from a potential, could be a huge play if you had midweek, late season, Justin Jefferson has an injury. So we already like him because of the Adam Thielen targets that we're expecting him to get. But then you take one injury to Justin Jefferson, maybe even an injury to Hawkinson, and Addison could just be a true wide receiver 1. All right, let's go. We are moving on down. Mark Tinsley, seems like rookies are starting to cool off. Is there a time where they may get steam again? Drafted above ADP, that is. All right. I'm going to talk through my process here. So last year, I was really high on Chris Godwin, but I was slowing. I didn't want to draft him that much in June and early July because I expected that since he was going to be missing training camp and missing the early weeks, he wasn't going to get positive camp reports. Now, that's not going to hurt his ADP on its own. But all these other young players and all these other players are coming in their best shape of their life, are going to get positive camp reports. And then as a result, those guys move up the board on ADP. And then Chris Godwin would just keep slowing just because he's not getting these positive camp reports, not that we'd expected. And I'm always kind of, a little critical of these camp reports. So my thought here is first, we're going to try to remember where my thought process is. We're going to get Gabe Davis or Brandon Cooks. No Dallas, Detroit. No Buffalo, New England. We are not getting any week 17 correlation. We are not going to go crazily reach for anything here. Baltimore, Miami. We're just going to happily go with Gabe Davis. And now we've got 2 guys that I really like with substantial contingency upside. All right, grabbing Gabe Davis. So going back to where I was with regards to the rookies, I think what's going to see the most movement over the next kind of starting, early mid-July and then through August, our training camp reports, who's running with the ones. Preseason will give us some, but, it's only 3 weeks now. And with the extended roster time, it's probably not going to see as much from these players. But I guess, I think we may actually see, rookies keep going down because the veterans are more likely to have the starting spots and running with the ones this time of year. So the reports that are was it BC Johnson or whoever, 2 years, when Justin Jefferson was a rookie, you've got the Jamar Chase that he couldn't catch the ball, that the football was different than college. It's more likely than not that a rookie report is not going to be positive. Maybe it's just something wonky. Maybe it's that, hey, Jalen Hyatt, he's got to work his way. He starts with the third string. I'm not saying he's going to immediately get the first string, but it's far more likely that these rookies have to earn their way. And when we get a report that says running with the third strings is not going to be a starter, is not going to be in 3 wide sets to start the year, that's negative news that if anything is going to draw them down, whether it should or not, it's another argument, but like I think that draws them down. So I think it's more likely that rookies end up falling as we even get closer. Now, there will be some outliers. Some we're going to see that, hey, this rookie running back, Roschon Johnson, is looking great, has an opportunity to take half the work to start game one, blah, blah, blah. But I think for the most part, we're going to see rookies falling down. I think that's kind of where my lean is there. Hi. Devontae Adams, disrespect. It was only a few points away from being wide receiver 1 last year and scored with Stidham Carr. I know. And that, like Jarrett Stidham, I mean, was it one game? I don't know. But like he had just an insane, I think it was 2 touchdowns, some crazy amount of yards. Like he's been able to do it with anyone. ETR is very high in Devontae Adams. I think from a pure ranking standpoint, he's probably somewhere around like 9-10 right here, where drafting wise, I think he's falling. I think it really is just the unknown. I personally am kind of buying the dip on the Raiders passing offense. I think there's a lot of value there. I think the Jimmy Garoppolo news, I talked on this before, but the news with regards to the contract is not really something that we should be concerned about, because we should look at who else is in that room, their lack of trying to get a rookie QB, their lack of trying to bring anyone else in. I mean, Brian Hoyer, the only one behind him on a team that we think they believe they should be competitive. So I'm not concerned about Hoyer. I'm not concerned about Devontae either. I do like Devontae a lot. And there's some exciting, like I think that Las Vegas Indy game could be an exciting Week 17 dome game as well. Okay, pick 90 coming back to us. We did get our 4 straight wide receivers, as always expected. The wide receiver avalanche is now completely, and the wide receiver dead zone has begun. This is not where I want to be drafting a wide receiver. We have an opportunity to go Pacheco. We can go Deshaun Watson. If we're thinking about what QBs we still have available, we're really looking at just Kirk Cousins, maybe Daniel Jones later on. I'm just going to cue Pacheco from an ADP standpoint. I don't mind Deshaun Watson here. I mean, I think we just would be reaching for like an Elijah Moore, maybe an Njoku. I really don't want to just take a naked one right now when there's another ADP value on a position that we could probably, use a solid player, and because Isaiah Pacheco there. So we'll take that. Let's see what we can do with Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins if we're looking at this board. So if TM Longacre wants Kirk Cousins, he'll take it to 96, 97. No problem if he wants to go there. Darren, Tampa Wheels grabbed Joe Burrow to go with T. Higgins. So he's got a strong stack there. He could go with the Daniel Jones to stagger Darren Waller, but I don't think it's necessary based off what I'm looking at his team. It's probably better for him to kind of go with, Devontae there, and maybe another running back here to try, or honestly, only a 3 wide receiver. So she probably should grab another running back or wide receiver here rather than going the bit overspend on QB, I think, in a Burrow and Daniel Jones. So maybe we get one of those 2 falling back to us here. If not, we can make this a 3 QB build and start thinking about some later stack options. It's an interesting team where if you're looking at our players, like we have a lot of onesies that are on elite offenses. And so we just missed out, unfortunately, on those QBs, which makes sense. But I mean, you got 3rd round Lamar. You've got 2nd round Josh Allen. You've got 2nd round Patrick Mahomes. Then you've got 5th round Justin Herbert. So it's harder to get strong stacks when we have those players. But again, those are good players on good offenses. Makes sense that that we're still going to want those players on our team. All right, we're coming back around pick 103. All right, let's see. So TM Longacre went Jalen Hurts early on. Makes sense why he did not want to go with the Jefferson. Respect that. We're coming back around one more. QBs galore. We have kind of our pick of the litter if we want. Not going to be grabbing a naked Tua. Got Dak. We got Anthony Richardson as well. This is a time where I don't hate grabbing like an Anthony Richardson. I'm going to cue this. Is there another? There's no one else that, I don't mind these running backs, but I think this is the time to kind of grab a QB and then try to grab another one at 114. Let's go Anthony Richardson. I do not have many of these, but I definitely want to have some in my portfolio. I'm not drafting much Pittman to begin with. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I'll draft Anthony Richardson when I get Pittman. So for me to get my shares of Anthony Richardson, the times that I really want to do it are the times like this, where I'm not really working towards any other strong stacks. And hey, it works that I have pieces of some other high-powered offenses. So if Mark Andrews goes off, maybe Lamar has a good game. Gabe Davis goes off. Josh Allen has a good game. Someone like Anthony Richardson can hopefully still, on his own, without even needing those stack partners, match or at least come up with 80% of the value that those elite QBs are providing them. So I'm okay with grabbing Anthony Richardson. I know there's some late pieces as well that we can probably pair him with as a 1 or 2 off. But naked Anthony Richardson is not a bad thing either. Okay. Comments. I'm trying to play some catch up, so here we go. Let's go quickly. What other we got? We got Joel Goldstein going. Is there any early round player you've drafted a lot that you somewhat regret having too much exposure to? I mean, I don't know how valuable this information is. Pre-draft is probably Kenneth Walker, just because I really liked him in like the early 3rd round. And obviously that's not great now, but yeah, that was a Zach Charbonnet thing. So hard to really get too upset about that one. Truth. I don't really think so. I think if I'm overweight on some players, if anything, it's later on in the drafts. Early on, especially this early in the offseason. I can look on my phone while we're doing this and take a look at kind of my higher exposed players. Let's go real quick. We'll look specifically for post-NFL draft because I think that's going to be a little valuable. My highest owned players are Marquise Brown at 40%, Mike Evans 30, Chris Godwin 30, Mike Williams 28, Dawson Knox 26. Like, I don't hate any of those. We're back in the clock. Dak went, Cousins went. That means Daniel Jones is there for us. By week 13, by week 11, we are okay with that. Tua falling is really interesting. I mean, I love ADP value. That's a full round of value, but I'm not sure how you build a successful week 17 with a Tua going off, but not having Tyreek or Waddle. Yeah, I'm not able to visualize that one. We're still a bit in that wide receiver dead. Like, this is where we're talking about that wide receiver dead zone last time. Like, this is literally we're going to take Daniel Jones, so it's okay. We passed on wide receiver here, but like the best available wide receiver by ETR is Juju. I think this is going to drop a little. It's funny. The data keeps showing Juju's being a good pick, but no one really wants to draft him. But like a lot of the guys we like, what we're basically saying is like in this zone, they're all so close. And so if I would have, instead of grabbing Pacheco, grabbed a wide receiver here, it's almost the same wide receivers that were just available for me 2 rounds later. And so, 1, 2, 3 rounds later, and we'll see who's available to 127. This really is, in my mind, just such a wide receiver dead zone. Have a hard time having someone actually telling me that the wide receivers available right now are that much different than any of these that have been drafted in rounds 8, 9, and 10. All right. But yeah, so Joel, I really don't think so. I'm just not getting that substantially higher exposure. I'm trying to see the earliest, top first. Amon-Ra at 24%. That's the only second or first rounder that I'm over 20% on. And honestly, I don't hate that at all. Happy to be overweight on Amon-Ra. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously, I'm just drafting him in that 12, 13 pretty often. But can't hate anything there. Drafting 2 RBs back-to-back is always fun for some chaos. Yeah, starting off with that. So Bonner and I were the only 2 that went RB. Bonner then went 4 straight wide receivers, which in general I like. I went with the tight end, then 4 straight wide receivers. And then neither of us have grabbed a wide receiver yet. Pretty similar teams where we drafted our QBs and such. Interesting. Bonner Brian, I think you said you were in the chat as well. We'll have to do a quick little team review post-draft to see how each of ours turned out. All right. Giants stacking is interesting right now because there's just so much risk. Jalen Hyatt and Wandale Robinson, it feels like you're getting ADP values in them because they keep sinking. But like, there's so much risk involved with both of them, with the injury for Wandale, with like, who knows when Jalen Hyatt's actually going to be playing and what role he'll have. We need some wide receivers here. I'm going to grab Michael Gallup. Houston, Tennessee. There's no week 17 correlation that we're playing with here. We're literally just picking by position and then best players available right now. I don't love it, but that is just the way some of this falls together. We did want to grab some wide receivers there. And again, we are on. This is apparently team contingency upside because Michael Gallup is another one where you get an injury to Brandon Cooks, you get an injury to CeeDee Lamb, and could have a substantial piece of that offense. I think Brandon Cooks actually has the larger contingency value in that offense, where if CeeDee Lamb was to go down, Brandon Cooks could have 10 plus targets a game. But I do think Michael Gallup actually has a chance to earn his way into a major role. Year plus removed from the previous injury. All right, quick review of our team. I think literally, who was asking me about maybe that was from a Twitter earlier when I put it on the screen. But the two QBs, we ended up exactly with those with Richardson and Daniel Jones. Running backs, Eckler, Barkley, and Pacheco. Two really strong running backs to start off. A pretty nice value, almost a rounded value of Pacheco and a position of need. So we're happy there. Tight end, Mark Andrews, elite. Wide receivers, we are light. We knew we were going to be light. If I'm thinking about what this team's going to look like from a composition, 2592. 2592 with a tight end and a running back in the 17th and 18th. Like, it's probably what it is, which means we're going to just be hammering wide receivers for a bit now. I think that's okay. That's what we need to do. These are guys that, like, hey, we're drafting now that are going to be on the field, but are either just not that talented or the offenses really have some major question marks. That's the downside of starting off with 3 straight picks and no wide receivers. And thinking through, if we were to try to do this again, like, would I do anything differently? Definitely not with this pick. And that's where it's like, I want to grab Eckler. It's tough. I think I just don't. Hopefully, this really only happens from the 7 spot, because if I'm in this 6, I can grab basically any of these others. And so it's really like the 7 spot is that, hey, if that's 1 out of every 12 drafts and I go running back, then honestly, this doesn't happen every time. That ends up being like 5% of my portfolio. Maybe if you include the Christian McCaffrey, it's a little higher. But like, that's not that substantial. So that's why I'm okay with doing the running back and having a weird wide receiver room, because the majority of the time I'm not going to be starting running back. All right, coming back to us. Let's see. I'm just trying to think through. I'm trying to get any form of correlation for us without crazily reaching. We could do the Alec Pierce here. It's such an ADP. I mean, it's such like a ETR rankings. Reach Jonathan Mingo. Give us a little rookie action for some late blooming. Yeah, I think we just take Jonathan Mingo here for some ADP action. And I do like having some, another rookie on this team for some late blooming for these wide receivers. And like, I think, yeah, Alex Pierce is interesting here. We're like, okay, would be reaching ADP, only 7 picks, whatever, not a big deal, but we're getting our stack with Anthony Richardson. That's obviously a positive. But like, I don't need Alex Pierce to have like a good year for Anthony Richardson to be great, to have like a great value on my team. Like, Anthony Richardson to be great and Alex Pierce could literally be irrelevant. And like, I'm sure there's definitely some levels of correlation for like Anthony Richardson having a good year and Alex Pierce as well. But overall, I don't know. I'm not that worried. Anthony Richardson or even Daniel Jones with stacking them. Daniel Jones will probably end up grabbing some of these, like a late wide receiver or 2. Let's see what we've got up here. But it's just so ugly. Like, what do you end up going with? We're just going to queue them all up for now, and we'll figure it out later. Let's get that back up. Let's run through. We got some more questions. This is supposed to be a Q&A at MA. I'm trying to answer as many as I can. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Lucky number 7. Have been getting Miles Sanders consistently? I thought this was a question. It was a comment. That's fine. I'll still read it. Have been getting Miles Sanders consistently around 70. Oh, here we go. Where do you see his ADP in a month? Should I keep taking him there, or will that be his average in a month? I have no reason to believe that he's going to substantially go up or down. I think that's probably about right. I think when you look at that 70 spot, it's probably actually a little value. I thought he's kind of been hanging that 65, 66 spot. You got 72, so I guess he's fallen a little. I just find it hard. I don't know. I like Dameon Pierce better than him. I think people might actually start liking Cam Akers even better than him, the way that kind of talk is coming out and what we saw them finish with last year. So maybe I could see him drop a little, but overall, I don't know. It's not too bad. Do we want to be grabbing another running back here? You can grab a Tank Bigsby. Stick with the Carolina passing game. I'm going to grab Tank Bigsby if I can do it in time. Did we get it? We got it. Okay. That gives us a 4th running back. Gives us a little, Jacksonville, Carolina for the week 17 correlation. We kind of needed another one. We'll probably hold off on grabbing another running back until the 16th, 17th round. So I'm trying to map this rest of this draft out. Done with QB. Let's say a running back in 186 because I like the guys that are still available here. Tight end in 199 or 210. That leaves us with wide receiver 162, wide receiver 175. Maybe wide receiver 199. Obviously, we've got a few of these giants that are available. We can probably just, if we want, just say hey, let's grab 2 of these and we'll see what falls to us. Let me make sure from a bye week standpoint. Bye week, week 13, we got Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Gallup, and Mingo. Maybe we don't want to grab 2 giants, guys. It's such a crapshoot with these Giants wide receivers. Someone in chat, make me feel something about these Giants wide receivers. Because I see such strong arguments for all of them. It's ugly. It's ugly. All right, let's keep on going through. This is looking like a 9+ wide receiver build. I know I don't like doing 10, but I agree. 2-5, 9-2 feels about right here. What's your favorite tools that you use? Honestly, I think Spike Week does some great stuff. Fantasy Life came out with the free tools this past week. I used Brick stuff last year. I'm not really here to kind of promote or push one over the others. I think I'm just glad to see a lot of these great tools coming out that are helpful. Honestly, for the most part, I do a lot of my stuff just kind of on my own as well as through the app. I think my biggest feedback is that so I think my biggest challenge right now is if I want to do an export, it'll only export a certain groups of the contests. I guess that's just the 22-22 season. Maybe so it skips the previous. And I did a few hundred drafts, couple hundred drafts at least preseason. So I'd love to be able to get those all in the same place. But overall, I think there's a lot great out there. I don't have a strong feel on which one is the best or which other than others. Appreciate it, Keegan. It was really fun to put together. And Leone and Levitan were great partners for those podcasts. If anyone hasn't listened, there's a 6-part podcast series on the ETR podcast channel where me, Adam Levitan, and Michael Leone kind of talk through everything you really need to get prepared for best ball for this year. And then Leone and I did an Establish the Edge that was also, I think, published on the ETR. That got a bit more into kind of small field tournaments. There is that Dalmatian out there right now. Put a tweet out this morning about my Bulldog contest, but worth kind of considering those. Okay. What do we want to do? I'm leaning towards a Jalen Hyatt here so we can get at least one correlation. But it's ugly. It's ugly. I'm probably just going to go Jalen Hyatt. It locks us away from. I was also considering Hunter Renfrow for the bring back against Indy, but I really don't want to have full. 1, 2, 3. We have 7 right now. Okay, so we're going to finish with 2 more wide receivers. I'd be okay then, I guess, if we have 5 that weren't week 13. Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, you're expecting those to kind of give you points. It's week 13, so Kyler's probably back. Gallup, Mingo, and whoever our late is. So that's not the worst. I don't want to get too worried about the buys. We'll let this draft kind of come to us a bit and see. Whew. I do like these like tight ends. I think Dawson Knox is like a great ADP value for that 178. And then Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill, I think, are solid picks as well. The reason why I'm probably not going to be taking a tight end, though, is we are just really in need of strong wide receivers. And the tight ends that are available in the last round, I'm perfectly content with, and I think with are not that much of a difference than what we have in this tier versus the wide receivers like Hunter Renfrow, maybe the Giants guys with the correlation, versus who's available in the 18th round of wide receivers is really ugly. So that's why I'm probably going to say, like, hey, let's wait on that. Take a look, keep an eye on running backs too. There's definitely a bit of a cliff that usually starts around round 17. So we'll keep an eye there as well. All right, going on through more questions in chat. What are you doing with Deshaun Watson? Pretty good if he's able to return to form. I'm drafting a decent amount of him. I think there's 2 things that really play in this for me. One is the risk reward scenario of, like, you know, if he's actually able to get back to his previous form, where he's being drafted versus like where he, you know, his value is, I think is substantial. I'm willing to take that risk. And it does sound like Cleveland really is trying to shape that offense around him. I do think it is a smart room in Cleveland. And I mean, it makes sense. The signings with Elijah Moore, drafting Cedric Tillman, letting Kareem Hunt walk. They do, I think, want to be a bit more pass heavy. And then number 2 is where he's being drafted. Oof, we are back here again. What are we going to do? I kind of want to go with Hunter Renfrow. I think Hunter Renfrow is just a better bet than a lot of these guys. And it gives us a little of that Indy Las Vegas week 17. Yes, we really put ourselves, you know, in a bit of a bind with ADP stance. You could consider like a late Josh Downs or something. All right, so we'll grab Hunter Renfrow here. We'll get rid of all of these Giants. We mentioned that we still need to grab a running back and still need to grab a tight end. Let's just throw a bunch of running backs in the queue for now. We have Eckler. We could do with a Josh Kelly situation and get a little handcuff aspect there. Pierre Strong is getting some hype. CH. Lots of options there. We'll figure something out. Tight ends are falling as well. No concern there. So 3 more picks. One more time, refresher. We are at 2, 4, 8, 1. We are done with QB. We will grab 1 running back, probably here. 1 wide receiver, probably here. And 1 tight end with the final one at 210. Overall, don't hate it. We know we need to get a little lucky with some wide receivers, but hopefully we were able to kind of piecemeal enough together. I mean, hey, my winner from a couple years back had freaking KJ Hamler doing nothing all season, but getting that kind of piecemeal at the right time. So maybe this can put some magic together as well. Keep on going through. A couple more questions. We have Kenny with the 1 out of 16, week 15 of 16 seems like late round flyer differential will be important. Week 17, what are your favorite undrafted players? Right now, I am not focusing on undrafted players because if you think you have an undrafted player that is really going to be like, hey, a great piece for you, most likely what's going to happen this offseason is one of 2 things. One, that player actually gets some positive hype out of camp. They actually start getting drafted in the 18th, maybe even 17th rounds. And now you took a chance on a player that is no longer unique because other people are drafting him. Or what happens is you were wrong on him. He gets no buzz in training camp. And turns out that he actually doesn't even have a roster spot, and now you wasted a spot on him. So for me, what I'm doing with those, how do I get unique at the end with undrafted players, is come August, when I then have increased confidence in who has and who hasn't been being drafted. So now I know if I'm willing to take a chance on a guy, I know that I am getting a unique player here. And then you're still hoping that they kind of have that late bloom. The benefit of just kind of drafting those guys right now kind of it gets mitigated, and it's not like you're getting ADP value if they actually spike, because majority of the time, unless there's a substantial injury, And even then, the undrafted players probably wouldn't even drop that much, but you're still only gaining like what? They move up to a 16th, 17th, 18th rounder. So come August, I'm going to definitely have some of these players. Don't have them now. Last year, it was Samaje Perine was my big one. I was just making a bet that like, hey, he's the one who's not being drafted. So more likely to grow with him than Chris Evans. And that one worked out very, very well. Okay. We are up next. We've got Josh Downs here, but we've also got some running backs. Deonta Foreman was a nice ADP value there. Do we want to go with a Chase Brown? This is where that kind of cliff. I was hoping to kind of grab one of these other. I mean, look, a lot of running backs just went. Yeah, Jeff Wilson, Pierre Strong, Ty Chandler. You guys were just drafting running backs directly off of my list. I know exactly what you guys are doing, and I don't like it. That's okay. We're going to go Chase Brown. Don't have much Chase Brown. Fits bye week. Fits with an upside play. We get Pacheco and Chase Brown. Not that there's that much correlation from two running backs in the same team, but who knows? Maybe from a breakout aspect, from a big-time game aspect, you can get a little of the groundwork from it. Let's get rid of these other running backs. We are now on the 2-5-8-1. That leaves us with one more wide receiver and one more tight end to end this draft. Let's see if we can get a couple more questions in before we end up, though. If forced to guess, which structures do you think takes down the regular season and playoffs of BBMIV? If I was forced to, I would say 2-6-7-3. Why am I saying that? Because that is by far the most common structure. And so that structure, I'm just going to go from numbers game and say like, hey, it's not a bad structure. And because it has done the most, it probably has the highest chance. I know that's not really an exciting answer. Let me rephrase your question. What will I be doing the most drafts of this year? My answer there is probably 2-5-8-3. I like that structure with the way things are kind of playing out right now. Late value at tight ends. Investing, usually I'm grabbing like 5 wide receivers in the top 7 picks. So if I'm grabbing 5 in the top 7, I definitely don't want to go too heavy on those. Something around 8 feels right. So for me, I think I'm going to say 3-5-8-3 is probably the best advance rate compared to the population. But what do I think ends up winning them? I'd go with the 2-6-7-3. Who is the one player in the ETR ranking you disagree with? It's a little tough because I also have like input in those rankings. So whenever I do strongly disagree with the player, like I'll put it in our chat and then we'll kind of talk through about why, or what we may want to, think about for the inputs, where I may be right, where I may be wrong. I think it's just the guys that are really hard to project, but we understand they have substantial upside. I'll throw 2 names out there. One is Anthony Richardson. Another one is George Kittle. Both of those, if you're trying to project them out from a game by game, like it's really hard to get them in the right ranking because I don't know, just more likely than not, they're not going to be too relevant. It's really hard to kind of include their Josh Downs goes. Oof. Okay. We're trying to do some last minute wide receiver stuff. Let me at least put Gesicki in the queue here. But real quick, last wide receiver could go Mecole Hardman. I don't actually hate that. I'm going to go with that above. Tim Patrick with the LAC aspects. Let's do it. We're going Tim Patrick. Little bring back for the Eckler and the Mike Williams that we had because we didn't have anything else there from Denver. And I'm pretty bullish on Tim Patrick. If you look at how large his contract is, they really do like him there. Obviously, new coaching staff, who knows and such. But I'm still a little bullish on Tim Patrick. And I knew that we could always get a decent tight end in the last round where wide receiver, it really, really falls off. So, okay, so and the George Kittle and the Anthony Richardson. It's really hard to kind of project them to where we may actually want to take them because then you have the dynamics of like, hey, actually they can have a pretty meh regular season and spike in the playoffs, and actually that's really valuable, a la what we kind of saw Kittle do last year. That's extremely hard to work into your rankings. So those are the kind of players, the archetype that I'm like, okay, these are the ones that ETR rankings have a little lower, but I'm willing to occasionally reach on them or work them into my portfolio because even though projectable volume, projectable rankings, it doesn't look that great. I know there's a world in which, hey, they hit that spike week and it's huge. Spike week, spike season, spike outcome. Okay. Positive news coming out of camp around Campbell, definitely. Problem is, I don't know. I want to wait a little longer on this one. Could very easily see like, hey, he's going to be a great part. He's going to be involved in sweeps, and he ends up with an extra, couple sweeps or I don't know. It's just not much to really move the needle for me. But I am keeping an eye on Paris Campbell. There are some positive news there. Yeah, Hodgins, Slayton, Wandale, Hyatt. There's just so many there. It's hard to really say. What are your thoughts on the unside RBs in the late rounds? For the most part, I'm avoiding. There's other guys around that range. Gus Edwards, Gus Edwards, Ty Chandler. I kept saying Madison, Ty Madison, Alexander Madison. Okay, but in this area, guys that I like. So Gus Edwards, Kenneth Gainwell, Ty Chandler. Those are the ones that are really around those other running backs. Kenneth Gainwell really high this time, I guess. TM long anchor with the Jalen Hurts stack from earlier. All right, falling back to us, tight end, Jake Ferguson, Luke Musgrave, Isaiah Likely, Cade Otton, Zach Ertz, Logan Thomas. Any of these are possibilities. Dallas, we don't have any Detroit. Musgrave, Green Bay, Minnesota, not much. I'm not going to grab Likely when we already have Andrews. Cade Otton. Reports are pretty positive out of Green Bay with Musgrave. Let's grab that. I like the Green Bay, Minnesota week 17 as well. Yeah, I'm fine with that. As I said at the end here, and I am looking for a little more with upside in a situation when I have Mark Andrews. I'm not really trying to say like, hey, I want someone for like those 6 points that 1 week in week 13 when Andrews is on bye, or if Andrews misses a game or something. Like, I want the player that occasionally either surpass Andrews or maybe even play in my flex spot. So rookie, at least with upside is what I'm looking for here, versus if you were considering someone like Cade Otton, who's going to be on the field or something. So, this was good. Okay, we'll do one quick review of the Bonner Brian we talked about previously, where started off with a similar structure as me, RB, went with the 4 wide receivers, DK, Terry, Godwin, Dotson. Didn't grab another wide receiver until round 11. Let's take a look this way. Where are we? Struggling. There we go. Okay, Bonner Brian went with Watson, Geno, Howell. Maybe wanted to go 2 QB, but got a little stuck with the bye week. Sam Howell, not bad, especially with the ADP of 212. We'll see if he was able to stack him. McCaffrey, Chubb, Akers, Kendra, Israel. Did not overspend on the running back position after grabbing those 2. I like that. Very similar to us, where we grabbed Pacheco, they grabbed Akers. Wide receivers here: DK, Terry, Godwin, Dotson, Myers, Jefferson, DPJ, and Wandale. Looks like it's a 3-5-8-2 build with that Njoku and Juwan. So a little light at the tight end position. Fine at the QB, strong at the running back, and I'd say okay at the wide receiver. I think just the big thing I would have done is, instead of Sam Howell, you have McLaurin and Dotson. I see it. Okay, I like that stack. I like grabbing that third one. I'm trying to think where I might have maneuvered or something. And you got the Geno, so maybe it was you got the Chubb, DPJ. Yeah, it's tough. I think I'm not sure how much I would have done too differently. Again, just a difficult situation of starting running back. You were always going to end up with a wide receiver. I think for us, what I liked at least is that with running back, we were going to start off. We're going to have a strong running back heavy team with Eckler, Barkley, and then Pacheco. I'm happy with whatever ends up with other 2, but just those 3. Mark Andrews gives us elite tight end, and going with Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, it's possible that we flub and end up just with a very bad team and a very bad QB situation, but also we've got upside here to have a very strong QB room. So when you look at this team, we're strong at running back, we're strong at tight end, we have the possibility to be really strong at QB. Now I'm okay with being light at wide receiver when I'm strong everywhere else. That's what I'm really looking for, is leaving these draft rooms feeling okay with feeling weak at one of the positions. When I feel like okay at all of them, those are the rooms that I usually leave hating the most. All right. This was fun. I'll stop sharing that. We'll bring it back. If there were any other questions, there may have been, actually, there's a few. Feel free, put them in the thread on Twitter, and if I have some time. Otherwise, we will be back Thursday with another great guest. We'll bring in the guest back to the boardroom. Enough time for the shareholders and the Q&A, the analyst sessions. We only have so much time to continue be going this much into the weeds, but I always enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your drafting, and thanks for coming, and I'll see you all later. All right, cheers.